With that, ladies and gentlemen, we move on to our next session, Roadmap to Seven Sigma. At the heart of this session lies a very important question: how do we move from basic compliance to a culture of excellence in safety and risk management? So we have our first speaker coming up for this session, that is Padma Shri Awardee and President, ATOAI. To begin the session, may I once again invite a legendary name in Indian adventure tourism, Mr. Ajeet Bajaj. Today, he will introduce the concept of Seven Sigma in risk management. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Ajeet Bajaj.
Sorry, sir, just a second. So the video slides, they'll play automatically.
Sure. Good evening. Thank you very much, Brigadier Shekhawat. That was a fantastic presentation, and in the world of adventure that we all live in, quite an eye-opener about what all can happen in our world. I'd like to begin by sharing a small story with all of you. When I graduated from college in the late 80s, adventure tourism, like I mentioned this morning, was considered synonymous with daredevilry, death-defying kind of stuff. And when I told my buddies who were getting real jobs in the real world that I was going to follow my passion and make it my profession, they thought I was completely crazy. I joke about this, but well, this is how I commute to work. This is not every day. This is a 400-meter zip line that takes me across the Ganga River to a campsite we operate across the Ganga River. And of course, we have many adventure tourists going on this zip line and back as well. So I'd like to begin with, well, we have our daily checks, weekly checks, monthly checks, quarterly checks, annual certification. This zip line is certified by Neerath, who's an ACCT inspector, American Challenge Course Technology inspector, so it is certified to American standards of safety. And I have a couple of my colleagues here who are hands-on in ensuring that whatever our agreed protocols are, those are done sincerely and with absolutely no room for error. Well, in our fantastic world of adventure, even sometimes with the best of precaution, skill, expertise, things do happen. This is an expedition to ski to the geographical North Pole. You do ski on a thin layer of ice, 1 to 3 meters thick, on the Arctic Ocean. You tow a sled that weighs 60 kilos. And
here goes the sled. Oh, shit.
Pardon my language there. And, well, Brigadier Shekhawat just spoke about avalanches. I got to the base camp of Mount Denali 3 years ago. This was going to be the last of our 7 summits as a daughter-father team. A small plane drops you off at Kahiltna Glacier and takes off, leaving to fend for yourself for the next 3 to 4 weeks.
This is big.
And
oh my God. Oops.
luckily, we were far, far away. And this, well, we spoke about this earlier. Jerry spoke about this. This is the so-called treacherous second step on the northeast ridge of Mount Everest. That's my daughter in the orange helmet descending the second step. And if you look closely, below there's the body of a frozen climber below as well. So this is what led me to this concept. You know, as adventurers, explorers, and there's many of you here, we all live in that same world. we do sometimes expose ourselves to danger in the great outdoors. But sometimes as professionals, I feel we know what we are talking about, what we are doing with our own lives, risking our own lives. But when it comes to being responsible in the great outdoors for other people, that's where we came up with this concept of 7 Sigma. Let me explain what this is all about. So this process of 6 Sigma was started by Motorola in the manufacturing sector. So the idea was to optimize efficiency, and have absolutely no defects in the manufacturing process. So they could accept about 3.14 defects per million, right? And that was considered very, very highly efficient. But in our world, whether we are running training programs in national adventure institutions or as adventure tour operators, we cannot afford to have a single defect, right? A defect means an accident, it means loss of reputation, it means a loss of everything in our world. And as responsible adventure operators, let me share with you that this is a utopian concept that we are talking about here. So how do we do it? To get to 7 Sigma, we should try and follow the 7 Gs. Now, there are 3 speakers after me who are also going to share some of these aspects. So the first of the 7 Gs is really about your group risk ethos. As an adventure company or an institution, what is your attitude to risk management? And to that effect, are you really following global best practices? Are you learning from the best in the field in your country? Are you doing anything and everything possible in your operation to minimize any untoward incident from happening? Are you, for instance, Brigadier Abby spoke about ISO 21101, Adventure Tourism Safety Management System. Are you heading, is your organization heading in that direction? Your guides, they are the center of the universe when it comes to providing an adventure experience, guides or instructors. Not only do they have to be rock stars when it comes to technical skills, and I think as organizations, we need to focus a lot more of our energy into their soft skills as well, in their communication skills, in skills like being able to give a really good safety briefing before any activity, in their ability to communicate clearly about conditions and to be able to even change plans. Brigadier Shekhawat spoke about global warming. I like to call it global weirding. We are seeing the effects of that all over the place, right? So our guides not only rescue, wilderness first aid and CPR, and I'd like to encourage all of you, ATOAI has been conducting courses across the country for 4 days. What we are doing is 2.5 days of wilderness first aid and CPR. We do half a day of leave no trace, ensuring that we leave our beautiful wilderness areas cleaner than we find it. And for 1 day, we also talk about professional adventure guiding. What are the nuances of taking people safely for these adventure activities? Equipment, again, I'm going to leave it to Bhushan to talk more about it, but it's not today. Fortunately, our Bureau of Indian Standards, this is work in progress. We are working towards standardizing equipment, but till we get there, let's just use internationally certified equipment. Let's talk to each other. Let's learn from each other. You know, for instance, if you use a certain brand and it's worked well for you, let's share our best practices. So let's keep, as adventure operators, people who are running institutions, let's share some of our experience with each other. Therein lies our true strength. But it's not just getting the best equipment you can buy, but it's also about ensuring that we look after our equipment really well. Our guidelines call it standard operating procedures and trainings. I'd like to share what we do. Twice a year as an organization, we run training courses. We talk about our standard operating procedures. We do scenarios. We talk about risk assessments in every adventure activity that we conduct. And I think this really has helped us. And we do it twice a year. The first time we do it before the main season, it is a longer process for 5 days. And then we also do technical training throughout the year. So whether it's training in wilderness, advanced first aid. Now the course is valid for 2 years, but we train as a team every year. Because sometimes we feel that 2 years is too long a period. Yeah. Our guests, well, I spoke about it this morning. We have to, as adventure operators, ensure that our guests or adventure tourists, they have the experience, they have the equipment, they have the fitness to get onto any adventure. We need to ensure that we know if there are any medical concerns. We need to know about their dietary requirements. I'm talking about, of course, the longer multi-day trips here, from their allergies to every little detail about them. And I spoke about it earlier. Geographical conditions or global weirding, right? Our weather patterns are changing. And I think it's key for us. We need to be flexible. We may have an itinerary, we may have a plan to do something, but if conditions in the great outdoors are changing, let us have the flexibility. And I think we should have this as a part of our documentation that all of us do. That look, while taking guests, people on an adventure is important, it's more important to bring them back safely. Not only physical safety, but another very important aspect today is emotional safety as well. We don't want to bring adventure tourists back emotionally scarred for life. Great communication, I think critical, not just our internal communication as a team or with our adventure tourists, it's really important, our external communication, even with some of our partners whom we work with, absolutely vital. Communication here also means being aware of some of the government notifications, rules and regulations that do change from time to time. So we do have to stay on top of our game. Risk assessments, this is a very simple template, but let's make it a habit for activity providers. We should, as a good practice, go over our risk assessment once every quarter. And I think for those of us who also operate adventure tours, before every trip that we run, get the team together, do a Zoom call if some of them are in remote locations, but let us do a detailed risk assessment and ensure that we do everything that is possible to mitigate risk. Well, we talk about emergency response plans, but I think what's important is to have these plans to prepare for emergencies, but our systems have to be so robust that we ideally in an ideal world, never have to use some of them. Our Shri is telling me that I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to go over some of this very, very quickly. But the one place I'm going to pause, and Claire spoke about it, is learning incidents or near misses, right? So this came from the chemical industry, where they had to deal with very toxic chemicals like acids and so on. And they realized that for every 1,000 learning incidents or minor, call it near misses, they had 100 they had 100 minor accidents, which involved just first aid. And for every 100 minor accidents, you had 10 major accidents involving hospitalization. And for every 10 major accidents, there was a fatal accident. So absolutely vital for us. We need to build a culture where we can share some of these. Let's not call these mistakes. These are learning incidents, and we need to build a culture where we openly are able to talk about near misses and learning incidents. And it has to be a big part of our training. Training our teams, that whenever we are training, we pull out our learning incident logs, we talk about it, and we take steps, proactive steps, to ensure that these near misses or learning incidents don't become minor accidents that lead to major accidents, that lead to fatal accidents. And well, another very important aspect for us as adventure operators is partner diligence. We may do the best job in the world in our operations, but we live in an interconnected world of adventure tourism, and it's absolutely vital that just as we take a lot of pain and trouble in our own operations, we ensure that we do our due diligence on any partner that we are going to be working with. You know, when we do risk assessments as an organization, one of the biggest risks we've noticed is transportation up in the mountains as well. And I think that's another factor that we need to look at very, very seriously. I think as operators, let us take the trouble to do the same amount of due diligence with some of our partners as well, and ensure that it's a real partnership in terms of having a similar wavelength when it comes to risk management. Thank you so much. Adventures yet to come. I think there are 3 speakers in this session who are going to talk more about some of the aspects I touched upon. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ajeet. Sorry, I had to rush you.
No, that's good.
You made us understand that safety excellence is never accidental. It is the result of systems, discipline, training, continuous improvement, and due diligence.